One of the most interesting people I know is a guy named Jon Kahn, who's a champion tennis player, a Hollywood screenwriter and director, our COO at Breitbart News, and also a top recording artist, singer-songwriter. You probably heard his song Fighter. It was #1 song on iTunes. It's been a part of Trump's rallies for a while. And he's got a new song out called After It Burns about the Palisades fire, where Jon, keeping with the theme of being the most interesting guy I know, lost his house in the Palisades. This is just some of the most cherry real estate on the planet. It's somewhere he lived for a very long time. Overcoming that level of devastation is pretty remarkable, especially considering how the state of California, the local government in Los Angeles, seems to be doing virtually nothing in order to try to make people whole who lost everything for what was probably somewhat preventable, if not entirely preventable. Jon's here with me to talk about the song, but first I want to play some of it, guys. If we could play this cut of After It Burns.
And fed yourself, but still you wanted more. Now there ain't nothing much left to say. I know now I was the only one in my own way, and somehow I'll find the will so I can find a way. Broken matches, nothing lasted, should have lasted. All that matters now is where you turn. Clear skies you can see for miles after it burns.
Incredible stuff. I got chills already just from a minute of it. Jon, welcome to the Marlow Show. Talk to me about a year after the fires took your home, but really took so much more from this city that I've called home most of my life, and you called home as well for decades. What's gone on over the last year? What's gone on for you on a personal level? Then let's go big picture, but tell me about your life.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty devastating thing to go through. You know, us being in the news business, you know, we're always looking at stories and going, it's happening to other people.
Yes.
And to be actually part of a story like that, it feels different for sure. You know, I think there are a lot of lessons you can learn from something like this. The first 4 or 5 months were just brutal. You're walking around in a trance. You can't understand it. And then slowly, and hopefully the song, you know, speaks to that, you kind of get up, you know, as conservatives, we get knocked down, we get back up, and we look for what's next. And this song, I think when I finally wrote it, because it was very difficult to write music after this for months.
Right.
I didn't pick the guitar, I didn't play the piano, and I finally sat down and I think I was trying to convince myself and deal with how I was feeling, which is always how I deal with hardship, is through music. You know, to convince myself that there are bluer skies here. And, you know, I was thinking about it, you know, that image. I mean, I'm not comparing this to 9/11 by any stretch, but I remember there was a cover of the New York Post, I think. It was after 9/11, and it was the New York skyline with no twin towers, and it was perfectly blue skies, and it said, "Now what?" And I never forgot that image, because it was almost like it didn't happen. And LA was very much like that. After the fires were put out, it was beautiful again, but it was all gone. My hometown was gone. And it's that same feeling, like, now what? And, you know, for me personally, you know, I think everybody's got to look at something like this through their own lens. For me, I never thought I would say this. I think this is going to turn out to be a blessing, because, as you know, Alex, I was tinkering around with moving to Nashville for years.
Sure.
And I just couldn't pull the trigger. I grew up in the Palisades. I went to high school there. I bought my first and only house there. And for years I was talking about, you know, trying to move there, and I couldn't do it. And, you know, I don't think I've told this story publicly. My most recent excuse before all this was, if I'm going to move to Nashville, because all the songwriters are so great and they're professional and they do it every single day, I need a hit song. I got to have a hit song or I can't move there. I mean, it was completely irrational. But then I wrote Fighter, which topped the Billboard chart for digital sales And I got my hit song, and like 2 months later, my house burned down. And it was like God saying, like, what other excuses do you have? And
there's something in this song. It's haunting, but it's also very hopeful. I think the line that people have been latching onto is sometimes things need to burn to understand where you need to be. It feels like that's what you're talking about. Give me more.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I never thought, look, there are a lot of people struggling in the Palisades that are trying to rebuild. I personally, in my life, I have landed in Nashville, and I've realized that this is where I was supposed to have been for a long time. And sadly, I needed a fire as a catalyst to move here. But I don't think I'm going back, and I'm happy here. And it's a totally different chapter in my life. So for me, had it not burned down, had I not lost everything, I wouldn't be embarking on this exciting chapter in my life. And I love it here. But for a lot of people, for most people in the Palisades, given what's going on politically there with the permitting and the insurance and the lack of development, they're struggling. And it's really difficult. And that's why I say you have to look at it through your own lens. For me, I feel like I'm going to come out looking at this as a blessing, despite all the things I'm still dealing with back home.
Yeah, and it's noteworthy. It's hard for me to resist, just from my frame of mind, to resist some of the political, where the EPA and Lee Zeldin and Rick Grinnell and the federal government came in. It seemed like the cleanup went pretty quick, pretty efficient, and the rebuilding, needless to say, is non-existent. No one's back in their homes at all, I don't think. There's almost no buildings that have been built. You could have seen this coming. I certainly did. But yet it feels like exactly a year to the day later, it doesn't feel like anyone's going to be held to account.
Well, no, I mean, I think, we've all been around leaders. I think we both try to be leaders. And one thing I've thought about is that leaders make you feel safe. They make you feel like no matter what happens, things are going to be okay. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find one single citizen of the Palisades or even Altadena that believes that Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom have their backs. And what's happened afterward with the insurance companies, people don't have all their money. So if you don't have all your money, you don't know when that's coming, how much you're going to get, how are you supposed to plan your lives? From what I read recently, there's only 417 houses being built out of almost 7,000. But Karen Bass said, I think yesterday in an interview, so we should all be feeling really, really good about this, that she said she's not going to rest until the Palisades is back in one piece. Now, that being said,
that's like when OJ said he's not going to rest until they find the real killers.
That's right.
Like, it's just
that's right.
The same thing.
She's not going to get a lot of shut eye for at least 5 years if that's her plight. But it's where has Gavin Newsom been? Where has Karen Bass did? All she did was pivot. She pivoted as soon as ICE was an issue in LA. She was licking her lips because that was a perfect issue for her to pivot and ignore the fires. Mm-hmm. Gavin Newsom, I will tell you, as a resident, watching his Twitter stream or his press team tweet and troll Trump was so infuriating as a resident when nobody knows what they can build, when they're going to get their insurance, if their town will ever be the same. And to watch that kind of leadership was so upsetting. And he's doing it today. His press office Twitter stream is trolling Trump on the 1 year anniversary of people losing everything. Yeah. And this is somebody who wants to lead the country. Where has he been? Where has Karen Bass been? Where have the Democrat senators been? It's taken Ron Johnson from Wisconsin and Senator Rick Scott from Florida to start an investigation, and Congressman Jim Jordan in the House Judiciary to investigate the fire aid fraud of $100 million, which nobody saw a dime of.
Yeah, Newsom's press office was making a homophobic slur against Benny Johnson, who has a wife and 4 kids, and they were making some sort of a homophobic slur against him, implying stuff, and that's what they're doing this week. And so, John, lay it out for me. Do we know where the fire started, and could Bass and Newsom, if they'd been competent, remember Karen Bass was in Africa at the time, could they have stopped it?
Yeah. I think they could have. I think that the policies that led up to it, I think they were protecting some, interesting plant. I don't know what it is. I don't think anybody could name it, even a botanist. But it's the fire started January 1st from an alleged arsonist, and people were called to put it out, and they didn't put it out properly. And with this giant wind event coming, they didn't have any fire engines in place to spotters in case it flared up. They didn't put it out properly, like I said. State officials were in fact there to survey it, but there are apparently rules about where you can put out a fire and how you can do it, given the foliage in that area, which I think is why it wasn't put out properly. And there was no water in the reservoirs. The firefighters didn't have any water. And, Rick Caruso knew the fire event was coming, or the wind event was coming, and protected the entire center of the Palisades. But it skipped over that because of the winds and burned everything else besides that. And so, yes, I think it was definitely preventable. And I think what they've done afterward is appalling. And I think it's sort of, when you add all the pieces together, it seems like a mission to collectively break the will of the people so that they give up. And I certainly do know a lot of people who can't figure out how to rebuild, don't have enough money, and they're just being, left to hang out to dry.
Completely outrageous. Jon, I'm glad you're on your feet. You're our COO of Breitbart. You do incredible work for us. You're writing songs and singing them in Nashville. This is a song for all of the victims, not just of this loss, but for any loss. I think it'll speak to you after it burns. You can get it on YouTube, Apple, everywhere, pretty much, right, Jon?
That's right. So on all the streamers, you can find it on my Instagram or X accounts, and there are links on there where you can download it on your streaming platform of choice. 30
seconds. Give me what you hope this song accomplishes.
Well, I hope the song brings comfort to the people of the Palisades and the Eaton fires. I've heard from a lot of people in the Palisades that it's being spread and being sent to everybody, which really does my heart good. My neighbors are talking about it, et cetera. But more broadly than that, I think it's a song for anybody who's gone through a lot of loss in their life, catastrophic loss, death, illness. It's something that human beings encounter every single day. And if it brings comfort to those people, I consider that an artistic success.
I got to tell you, I woke up today and I felt a deep sadness on the anniversary of watching some of my hometown burn. It was so insecure. It was so dark.